Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Humanity Matters broadcast. I am your host, Dr. Philip Fletcher, where we discuss and reflect on faith and philosophy, nonprofit leadership, and social issues. We want to engage ideas on what it means to be a free human being in pursuit of human flourishing. So it is 2021. Happy New Year to everybody. Hey, if you want to connect with me, visit my website, philipfletcher.org. That is philipfletcher.org. And there's a lot of great content, blog, ways you can see other things that I'm doing, especially with my nonprofit work here in Conway, Arkansas. As well, the YouTube channel, we're showing live today on YouTube as well as Facebook. Go over there and subscribe. Just look up Philip Fletcher, PhD, and you will see my handsome face and all that good stuff. And a lot of great videos and things over there as well. As always, if you got a question, email humanitymatterspodcast@gmail.com, humanitymatterspodcast@gmail.com. Hey, able to do some new things this year. StreamYard, using that this year to be able to show this show on different platforms. If you want to sponsor Humanity Matters, hit me up on PayPal, pfletcher73@gmail.com. That goes a long way. And as always, you can go catch the Humanity Matters podcast, available on anchor.fm, as well as iTunes and Google and all the great places you get your podcast information. So great opportunity to connect with people. And now our quote of the week comes from Dr. Walter E. Williams. And he says this: democracy and liberty are not the same. Democracy is little more than mob rule, while liberty refers to the sovereignty of the individual. That is from the late Dr. Walter E. Williams, the late Dr. Walter E. Williams. Hey, upcoming shows, y'all. There's a great opportunity to connect with you by bringing some different voices to this show. So on Sunday, February 14th, 2021, Dr. Rachel Ferguson will be here, and we'll be talking about free enterprise and the Black community. And then on Sunday, March 14th, 2021, Spike Cohen, who was the former vice presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party, he will be joining me as we talk about libertarianism and lessons learned from running for office. And then on Sunday, March 21st, 2021, Dr. Peg Falls Corbett, she will be here to talk about reforming our criminal justice system and really looking at it from the standpoint of restorative justice. So, hey, once again, if you've got a question or anything like that, please hit me up. Send us an email at humanitymatterspodcast@gmail.com. That is humanitymatterspodcast@gmail.com. So, this week, like, it is January 10th, and 2021 did not spare us anything. My wife was talking about how it's not just 2020, but 2021, WON. And I thought that was pretty funny when she said that. A lot went on. And so just my general thoughts of this whole election thing, what happened in Washington, D.C., I thought it was one part demonstration of people's right to assemble and protest, and one part like, wow, some stuff really hit the fan. And some people, not all people, have to be fair here, some, not all, like lost their mother scratching mind. And the other thing I thought about was this. Last year, there was a lot of talk about the system, revolution needed to change the whole United States system because it is from its beginning, racist, oppressive, so on and so forth, right? And I was like, wow, some people now on the other side, like, took it to its logical conclusion that when you're calling for things like revolution, bringing down the system, like, another group of people is like, okay, let's just take this to its logical conclusion. And you had people in the Capitol disrupting the vote that was going on as far as the electoral college and confirming all of that. And so you're like, dang, okay, that's what that looks like. Yeah, that is what that looks like. So when you're calling for those type of things, that is kind of like what it looked like, right? When you call for bringing down a system or challenging the system from whatever position that you're coming from, that's what it can look like. And it can be earth shattering, especially, I believe, in a country that really is not touched by that kind of stuff. I've been in other countries where that's like their life. It's just a cycle from one government, if you will, to the next form of government. That cycle of people trying to assert power out of a whole bunch of different reasons. And so those are just my general thoughts of the last week. It's hard. So things I don't understand, honestly. Again, if you got a question, email me, humanitymatterspodcast@gmail.com. One of the things I don't understand, and looking at this in the context really of not just the last 4 years with the current administration under President Donald Trump, but also the previous administration under President Barack Obama, that there's been this growing sense of, in order to solve issues that are going on in our society or in regards to economics or regards to politics, there has been this growing sense of the way that this needs to be solved is by individuals or groups asserting themselves in such a way that it tends toward now not just the use of words that can provoke people, but now it's moved to where we're at where people feel almost comfortable, almost okay with using some form of physical violence directed at other people, or destruction directed at property, if you will, and things that are not owned by you, in order to in the hopes of bring about some form of change that is going to benefit the other. Okay. And that's coming from what would be considered the extreme left and the extreme right. And while people in the middle are kind of like, what the heck is going on? Or there are some that are like, hey, you know what? I just don't want to deal with any of that. And it's kind of like let me put my head in the sand, hoping it will pass by and everything will go back to normal. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I don't know. I mean, we do live in a country where we have the opportunity to voice our concerns in a host of different ways, whether that's at the ballot box, whether that it is emailing like an elected official at whatever level. Yes, even, standing out on a street corner or on a sidewalk and be like, hey, I don't like this. But now it seems as if it's moving in a direction that is not healthy for Americans. And if what we saw on the 6th, and I have to say this, what was seen last year, if we are normalizing that and seeking to justify that on the basis of, because I think my side is right, eventually everybody's going to lose. Everybody's going to lose. So, how can I be part of the solution where I live? Well, that's what we're doing tonight. I've got a group of great people that we are going to have a discussion with. Some who live here in Arkansas, some who don't live here in Arkansas, who live in the plains, and some who live in the Northeast. A what I think is a great picture of America. If I had somebody from the West Coast, that would have been awesome. But it's okay. Maybe they'll chime in later. So, hey, if you would like to send me a question, once again, humanitymatterspodcast@gmail.com. And so, the first person I'm going to bring on today is Paul Calvert. Paul, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. I'm glad you could be here. So, yeah, man. So just give us like your general thoughts of the last week.
So, Trump is kind of a fireball of sorts. He's not my style politically. I don't agree with him a lot as far as his politics goes. I would consider myself a very hardcore, kind of Bible believing libertarian, if that makes any sense. And so basically, I believe in human rights, and that's kind of where my standpoint is. And so I'm not in very much agreement with Trump very often, nor Republicans nor Democrats. That said, the election was kind of nutty this go around. I mean, it really was. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was just not normal for the election. Trump lost, according to the numbers that were gathered. Whether or not those numbers were accurate or not, I don't know. I'm not in a position to actually give an intelligent opinion on that. I haven't seen the stuff. I've seen a video or two that maybe looks fishy, but to say that would have affected the outcome of the election, I don't know. Apparently, some people thought that it was fraudulent, and Trump had a rally on Wednesday, and apparently some people, for lack of a better word, it seems like they almost threw a temper tantrum, but there wasn't, from what I could tell, there wasn't an objective to it. And so it's frustrating because, sometimes force is necessary and good, and that's how this country came about.
Yeah,
but
you're right.
I don't think it was a temper tantrum that the founding fathers of this country threw. They weren't just, they didn't go in and just, although the Boston Tea Party, you might almost call it that, but they didn't go in and just kind of dance around in the Capitol for a couple hours and then give up, which is kind of weird. It's like, what was the point? They just got themselves in a whole lot of trouble for basically nothing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, what if you could ask any of them, what would you want to learn from them? What would you? If you could have the guy with the horns, right? That guy, or the guy that was sitting in Nancy Pelosi's seat. What discussion would that look like?
I don't know. I guess I can have interesting conversations with almost anybody, but it would be interesting to see what you do. What are you doing here? What is your point? What was your objective here? Are you here to actually get people to listen to you? Because it's the fact is that they didn't do anything that was really going to scare people. They didn't scare the politicians, I don't think, enough to make any difference. That could have been effective, perhaps, but I don't think that was. That doesn't appear to have been their goal. It wasn't. I don't know what was going on. I guess I'd want to know, why are you here? Why are you doing this? What is your point?
That's the best question of all. Yeah. So what do you want? What do you want people to know about life as an American from your perspective?
Life as an American from my perspective. Am I talking to someone in Africa or China or?
Yes. Talking to somebody who is not living here. How would you describe your life as an American right now?
I think my life as an American, I think Americans in general, we live a very luxurious lifestyle. Okay. And we have, most of us have running water, hot and cold. We live in a house that's probably over 60 degrees right now. Most of us live in a house that's over 70 degrees right now when it's like 30 degrees outside. It's cold.
Right.
And so it's a luxurious thing. I mean, we'll sleep in a bed and we won't have to worry about our fingers or toes literally freezing while we're asleep. And so we're living a pretty cushy lifestyle. We drive cars that have air conditioning in the summertime and heat in the wintertime. So we live a very soft lifestyle. I think one of the things that we don't really recognize very much because of that is that a lot of our liberties that would have been pretty normal 50 or 100 years ago are not really very present anymore because we don't feel like we need them because we live in such luxury that we don't feel it when government says, you know what, you can't make a living this way or that way because, well, you have to have a license or you're just not qualified or whatever it might be. And so we don't feel those sort of things. And so I think Americans in general have become desensitized because of our luxurious lifestyle.
Okay.
And I don't know. I don't know how to explain that to people necessarily, especially for people that maybe grow up on $3 a day.
Okay.
And so, how would you explain how Americans have become so silly and stupid, like some of the stuff you were describing earlier? We protest and burn things down. We burn our neighbor's property down because we're angry with the government, which is that's pretty boneheaded.
Okay.
And so I don't know. It's an interesting question because it's so broad and open. That's
Yeah, it is. It
kind of
is.
who I'm talking to and what their perspective is on life and such.
Good deal. So finally, what is it that in 2021? How, based on some of the problems that you are seeing and where you're living, and you live here in Faulkner County, how can you be part of the solution to things that you are seeing?
Well, as you know, I'm pretty active in the legislature during the General Assembly, during the general legislative session here in Arkansas. And I plan to do that again this year. And so tomorrow, the legislative session starts here in Little Rock at the Capitol. And I think I'll probably actually be at the Capitol some tomorrow. And then I'm also part of a radio program there in Little Rock, usually one day a week. But during session, I'll probably be on more, probably getting interviews with various different legislators and such. And so I try to keep track of legislation and promote legislation I think is good, and I try to kill some stuff if I think it's bad.
Okay.
And so that's kind of one of the that's kind of where I try to make a difference. I don't focus a whole lot on the county or the city level, because I don't live in the city, although I do have some property in the city. But and so that's kind of where I try to make a difference. And then just generally, I try to preach liberty and justice on Facebook, I guess, is kind of where my outlet is.
Got you. Hey, Paul, thanks a lot for sharing us your thoughts and joining us today.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
All right, that was Paul Calvert from Faulkner County here in the state of Arkansas. And now we're going to bring on Dr. Alina, who is from Rhode Island. And she is going to share with us her thoughts and perspective on this past week and looking forward. Doc, how are you doing?
Hi, how you doing, Doc?
I'm doing good. Now, for transparency's sake, me and Dr. Alina, we were doctoral students. Both of us graduated from Regent University. It's got the diploma right up in there. All right. So, Alina, it's good to see you and talk to you today.
Likewise, Phil. Thank you so much for having me, and welcome everybody, whoever is watching and listening. Before I jump in, because Paul alluded to Boston Tea Party, and of course I used to live in Massachusetts near Boston, so I have to say two words that was because of taxation without representation. So it doesn't even apply to our current situation. Just so we have history straight, okay?
Okay, all right. That's a whole other discussion and justification for people's actions. I got you. So your general thoughts of the last week.
Yes. So as you know, I take care of my advanced dementia afflicted mom, so I wasn't really monitoring it right away. I kind of monitored that retroactively, and it was quite scary. So I'm still anxious because I'm a mom, I'm a single parent, I have 2 sons, and I'm also a national national culture researcher. I wrote my dissertation on national culture. So if I stepped out in my city, it's like 70K people, and I asked 2 people, what is national culture? I probably wouldn't get an answer, okay? And that's the real problem, because we want to talk about system change, and our system was actually established by our founding fathers, and our system doesn't need a diaper change. We need it to be either, we need a diaper change, or we need to be toilet trained. Okay. So,
that's some imagery right there.
That's it. Right. So what is national culture? Okay. What is national culture? Can you tell me, Phil, what is national culture as far as your opinion? What is national culture?
Oh, well, national culture, I think, involves the language, the traditions, the words that we use, what has been passed down from one generation to the next. That's what we're living in right now. Yeah.
And who are the actors? May I have this like a dialogue, because we're from the same.
Yeah, we got 4 minutes.
Actors of the national culture. Who are the actors?
Oh, well, I mean, from a political perspective, you got electors, persons who've been elected. You've got individuals who will be the bureaucrats. You've got lobbyists. Obviously, you got private citizens. I mean, from an economic standpoint, people who work, CEOs, corporations. So, again, all of those feed the culture.
Right. But if we only use like those basic groups. So I'm Alina, right? And then I'm not a member of any group, but I could be a member of any group. So if you look at my I'm not enrolled. I'm a centrist. And I voted for Joe Biden because I voted for national values, for restoration, right?
Okay.
So we would talk about individuals as groups, and the national institutions, right? And then what are the tools that we use to enact our national culture, which actually serves as a repository of values that form our beliefs, and then also serves as a restraint system to keep us in check. So we either need a diaper change or we need to be toilet trained, right? One way or the other, right? And what happened in Washington, D.C. is that there was a lot of SHIT, right? Exactly. So I heard the word insurrection. I heard the word sedition. Both of those terms do not apply because the exiting president misled that mob into our symbol, right? Our capital, okay? Do I have a problem with that? Yes, I do. Because national culture places on me as a female, as a nourisher of life. I'm beyond the reproductive age, but I will have grandchildren. I have sons. I will have grandchildren someday. So the national culture itself, as a restraint system and a repository of values, places on me greater expectations, forgive me, gentlemen, and I need to deliver, okay? So what I'm saying is what people need to know, they need to read my dissertation. I actually analyzed 6 American females from the suffrage movement through the present, and I analyzed them through the lens of national culture, values, and behaviors, okay? People need to read my dissertation. So I'm going to post it online. There's no other way. It's 200 pages.
Let me ask you this. So what is, in light of your work, okay, and what you have seen in a micro from the past week over the last 4 years or so, and not just dealing with, well, specifically dealing with that small group of individuals who went into the Capitol, because it wasn't everybody. There were thousands of people out there who, and I've seen videos of people who were just singing and just having a good time, while you had a micro that took those actions inside the House and the Senate. What's one thing you would like to ask those individuals? So I'm giving you the same question I gave Paul. What is one thing you'd like to ask those individuals who went beyond the barricades and into the Capitol grounds and did those things.
Okay, so I would ask why, even though they're scary people.
Okay.
I would ask Ike. I've never been to Washington, D.C. I will go there now just to get those shivers down my spine. My son went to Washington, D.C. because he was a great student. My son has a letter signed by President Obama. Thank him for caring about safety in our school. It's like a what is the term I want to use? It's like a heirloom. You know what I'm saying? Like we have it online, we have it in hard copy. And my son stood near President Trump at Arlington, and didn't get the shivers. He didn't get the shivers, and that's the problem. That a person without moral character was elected in 2016, and 70 million people voted for him, and he doesn't have any values. Why? That's a pillar of our national culture. If we don't recognize it, then who will? I came to this country from an oppressive Poland, communist Poland. So if I fight for it and I would give my life to hold this flag at Fort McHenry, why don't they? Why don't they? I'm sorry.
Okay, you're getting fired up, Alina. All right, okay, all right. So finally, last question. How are you going to be part of the solution where you live in the Northeast Rhode Island?
Yes. Going out there and talking to everything that moves, going on Facebook, going online, educating people about our moral responsibility to actually deposit values, you know, garbage in, garbage out. If we don't deposit values, garbage is going to come out. And that's going to happen. We will have more. So I'm just waiting, like these people who actually cause these acts, despicable acts, need to be brought to justice. And we can't have that happen. And we just need to take moral responsibility to create this endless cycle between us as individual groups and national institutions feeding the culture with values and then receiving values. Okay. That's it. That's all it takes. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Alina. I appreciate your participation.
You're welcome, Phil.
All right. God bless
you. You too.
All right, so that was Dr. Alina from Rhode Island, and now we want to bring on Mark West, who also lives here in Arkansas. Mark, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, Dr. Fletcher. Thanks for having me on your show this evening.
Yes, good. I'm glad you're here. Glad to meet you for the first time as well. So follow you on Facebook and read your great comments. And so just give us your general thoughts of the last week.
The first thought is just it was really just kind of sickening to see what happened. You know, as you know, coming from my background as a pastor, a practicing Christian, I really struggle to see my faith kind of intertwined and entangled in this political landscape. Especially in an event that led to 5 people dying. That was very hard for me to stomach personally. For me, it had so many groups involved, and I think that's the part that a lot of people don't talk about, especially if you watch the mainstream media. The emphasis is on whether it's a white nationalist or it's QAnon and what they don't understand is this is kind of an amalgamate of people that were there. I mean, I personally know people from, this state that went there just to pray. There were other people that went there to, for the sake of protesting and making their voices heard. They wanted, Congress to hear their displeasure. And I'm totally cool with those things. I mean, those are things we should do when we protest. But they have the picture of the zip tie guy. What was he doing? What intention did he have with the zip ties? And then you hear that a Capitol police officer was beaten in the head with a fire extinguisher, and he later died. These are tragic things that happen. And then the woman that was shot in the hall, that's also a tragic thing. These were lives that didn't have to end that day, but they did because certain people in that crowd, not the whole crowd. You know, you can't blame the whole protest for it. And I felt the same way with the BLM protests that went on in the summer. You can't blame the entire protest for the actions of these few that try to take things into their own hands and think that, you know, they should be the judge, jury, and executioner. Unfortunately, we have a lot of that in our culture. Our culture seems to be a very violently defined culture. Go back to the American Revolution. You know, we violently fought a revolution, then we violently fought a civil war. We have been a violent warrior culture since our inception. We've been at war. Most of my life, we have been in some form of war somewhere since, you know, since I was born. So we have this warrior culture, this concept that real manhood, that real patriotism is, you know, strapping on your guns and going and fighting your enemies, whoever you perceive to be the bad guys. And then we have this flawed view of patriotism that comes along with it, where if you disagree with me, you're not a patriot, but I am. And that's flawed, because it causes you to see someone else who may view the country a little bit differently as an enemy when they're not. They're just somebody. They're just like you. They're somebody trying to make a living. They're trying to provide for their family. They're trying to keep a job, keep food on the table, keep a roof over their head. And instead, we see each other as enemies, and that's destroying this nation at the heart. It's pulling us apart from the center. And I think a lot of the responsibility falls on both us and those that are kind of provoking, because we do have this media dialogue where one segment of the population gets their news on A, B, and C, and then the other segment of the population gets their news on E, F, and G. So they're listening to two different truths. And then they both think the other side is just a bunch of lemmings, a bunch of sheep that need a shepherd. And I wrote an article about it this week. But everybody else is a sheeple. Everybody else is just listening and not really thinking. And instead of understanding that maybe the people on the other side have things they're thinking about too. I'm a political, I guess you would call it, centrist. I mean, I've ran as a libertarian for office. So my views do tend toward libertarianism, just because I'm very pro-freedom, pro-liberty, because I believe that is the best medium for me to have the opportunity to share the gospel. The more liberated we are as a people, the more liberated I am to share the gospel. So I tend toward liberty versus authoritarianism. But that's one of the things that I think has led to it, is we're just not talking to each other anymore. We have our views, and we're ready to fight and consider anybody an enemy that stands in the way of what we think the country should be. And I think that's what this protest, I think that's why parts of this protest turned violent over the week.
Yeah. What is one thing you don't understand about any individual who moves from a position of, you know, civil dialogue to where they think they need to pick up, they need to take their approach and make it more aggressive, even more violent? What would you want to understand about them if you had an opportunity to sit down with them?
I would really want to understand what they thought the violence would solve.
Okay.
Because to me, I think of you hear about the violence in places. Well, here in Arkansas, you hear about the violence in Little Rock. You know, the gang violence, where, you know, it's if you brought violence on us, we're going to return violence, and then we're going to return violence. And it's like, do not expect a response. You know, everything has, you know, all of these things political always work on a pendulum. You know, it'll swing and it'll swing, and you know, the more you push it one way, the harder that response is going to be back the other way. So what I don't understand is how they don't believe that there's going to be an equal and opposite reaction to what they were doing, and that would be the part that I struggle to understand. Okay,
so finally, how are you going to be part of the solution this year in 2021? Really to pull that pendulum, if you will, to pull more and more people into, you know, civil dialogue, and be able to not have that opportunity presented to where if there's a violent reaction, there's going to be a equal violent reaction in return. Talk to us about that as we close.
Certainly. Well, I'm a father and I have 3 children, okay. Teenage. Well, one of them is in college, the other 2 are in high school. Okay. So raising them to understand, just to try to take the time to talk and don't, and I really have to model this with my kids is, when they have a viewpoint, ask them, well, why do you feel that way?
Okay.
What makes you think that way? And because what I'm trying to do, because that on social media it seems like nobody agrees with anybody.
It's a poor opportunity to try to resolve things. It's a poor media.
So what I try to do in social media engagements is I try to do what I call like presumption of grace. That's what I plan to do in 2021 is just have a presumption of grace. Okay, hey, you disagree with what I'm saying. Some of what I say makes you angry. Explain to me why. Help me understand what makes you angry. Help me understand what you're frustrated about. Because if I don't understand why they're frustrated, I can't begin trying to help fix or even begin repair and heal the things that are creating that frustration and that anger. So this presumption of grace, someone, and I do plan to do a lot of that on Twitter this year, is just, when you see somebody that's getting castigated on Twitter, just to come on, just express them. You know what? Look, I've told a lot of people, I'm praying for you right now. I know that you're going through a lot, and I'm going to pray for you. That whatever's going on, that God puts this out in a way that is a blessing in your life, and that you can see that clearly, and that you can see the clear direction He's leading you in. And because I really believe that the solution, as a Christian, the solution is Jesus Christ. That we aren't going to fix America by fixing the politics. We're going to fix America as hearts are transformed, and those hearts act. Those changes lead to change and transformed lives. They lead to different actions. So my focus this year is on living His gospel and trying to share that kingdom with everyone I come across.
It's good words. Hey, I appreciate your time, Mark, and participating with us today. All right, thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. And now we're going to hear from Aaron, who is coming from us from the Great Plains. And transparency, me and Aaron served in the military and in Iraq together. Aaron, how are you doing today, brother?
Well, Dr. Phil, the best Dr. Phil. How are you?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Hey, so share with us your thoughts about what has happened this past week. All that stuff. Have at it.
Well, I feel like a lot of people have made a fairly emotional or very emotional response. And I just think of like escalation of force training that we got when we went to Iraq. And actually pointing a rifle and shooting at somebody is way at the end. That is the last and final choice. And I feel like a whole lot of folks kind of skipped from step one, the ballot box, competing against a president you might not like the next election, or voting out the entire Congress at the midterms. And step two, hey, if they're doing stuff that's unconstitutional, let's take it to the courts and let's shut this stuff down and get it fixed. And way at the end of the line is redoing 1776. And I feel like we skipped the escalation of force as an analogy, to use that as an analogy. We skipped from 1 to 500 in like 2 weeks. I don't know how that happened.
A lot of door knocking that happened, and just stacking and moving in, right? I got you. Oh man.
Right.
Hey, what do you want people to know about life as an American? What would you tell somebody here in America about your life? What it's like to be an American?
Well, it's as was alluded to earlier, we're very unique for the modern age of the revolutions from France and all through Africa and everything in the 60s. We're kind of the first revolutionary nation, so we're kind of unusual on that in that way. But we have the Constitution. That is the chief law of the land. From the Christians, the atheists, political left or right, whatever side you want to pick. We have throughout my lifetime always assumed and agreed on the Constitution. And, for vets in particular, for commissioned officers in particular, man, we are not going to let the Constitution get pushed to the side by any little old breeze. And again, violence is not first step. That is last step. We're talking about the soapbox that we're kind of on right now, the ballot box, and then going to the docket. Next choices. And that's how things are grounded here. It should be grounded here.
Good. So any of those individuals, now I'm going to expand this, where there was some of those individuals who chose the actions that they took on Tuesday, or even last year with everything that was going on, and the actions that those individuals took, similar in nature. What would you want to ask them? What would you want to understand if you could sit down with either one of those parties at a table? What would you want to understand from them?
Well, one fundamental thing is I do not understand how right after 9/11 through to today, we, the American people, allowed our legislators, Republican, Democrat, and even Bernie the Independent, to affirm and reaffirm the Patriot Act. Like, you want to talk about an assault on the Fourth Amendment. You want to talk about step one of tyranny, laying the groundwork for tyranny that reminds me of, Nazi Germany and Stalin's Soviet Union. That's kind of step one. So how have they not freaked out about that? Which, man, we've all been provided a search warrant to have our phones searched, comms monitored, all of that stuff. And what we've seen happen in the last few weeks, that is the point at which you broke and went out and did something. We've had some far more serious issues that are far more fundamentally a problem. Because I would say, hey, if the election was stolen, maybe some of this Patriot Act stuff had something to do with it, and they were infiltrating whomever they are. Right? They were able to get into computer systems. So it's like, why do this, and why not advocate to get back to an auditable paper ballot like we used to do, not when we were kids and stuff. It wasn't that long ago, right?
Right.
And so I'd just like to see some of those practical things happen and ask them what they, where they would prioritize those things, because I don't understand the priority list.
I got you. So finally, how can you be part of the solution where you live?
Well, the first step is teaching my own kids and mine in my own house first. But then with my neighbors, it's supporting good, righteous leaders at every level who don't think of position for their own personal aggrandizement, who don't use it for their financial gain, and taking and holding the unpeaceful, unrighteous leaders to account. And that means from down at low level all the way to the tippy top in all three branches of the government. And so thinking about, just teaching about some of the constitutional principles and some of the basic things, just concepts in the Constitution that even apply to military service. Why is it an NCO, a non-commissioned officer, an NCO? And what makes a commissioned officer different? How is the oath different? And just some of these basic principles that aren't, they're not taught in school, I don't think, very much at all anymore. And seeing about teaching some of the neighbors about some of this that would like to listen anyway.
That's good. Hey, Aaron, bro, it's good to see you. Thanks for the comments and the interaction.
Yeah. Good day.
All right. Finally, we bring it on the host of Out the Box Radio, Brung. How you doing, sir?
Oh, pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing good. Man, it's good to see you. Hey, share your general thoughts from this past week with whatever you saw on news, social media, what people are talking about, where you live. Give us your general thoughts.
My thoughts of it is total chaos.
Okay.
Just total reckless abandon for everything that the people that say so feel like injustice had happened to them.
Okay.
Everything that they talked about last year, they totally went against that when they felt they was unjust.
Okay. All right. Who is, unpack that for us. When you say they, who are you referring to? Just from your
I mean,
perspective.
as far as like like the supporters of Donald Trump.
Okay.
And just the people that didn't see the injustice to certain people happening last year.
Okay.
And said just simple words. Was it just obey or just obey?
Just obey, comply. Okay.
Yeah, just apply. Them same people that preached that all last year turned around and did the exact same thing this week that they was preaching against, that they was against last year.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Hey, talk to us. What is life for you like as an American?
Like right now, today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that right? Life for me as an American is full of opportunity and a chance to grow.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say freedom to go where I want and please. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. 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 That's good. So let's swing back around, and those individuals you pointed out that were basically saying they got their fist up in the air, and what they saw on Tuesday there was all fine with, but last year they had a different message. What would you want to ask those specific individuals?
What makes your justice better than my justice?
Okay.
Why can't I fight for my justice the same way you want to fight for your justice? And also like to ask them, do you want it? You talk about being a patriot,
Okay.
but you're basically practicing communism with your mindset is if you don't see it my way, you're wrong, and you need to go away.
Okay. All right. Okay. You invoked a different word because most of the time people are invoking fascism. But you can make the argument those are two extremes, communism and fascism. But one thing they do both have in common is silencing dissent. And here in America, one of the beautiful things that's supposed to be about America is the freedom to voice dissent, and obviously, and not have specifically the government at any level silence that dissent or take steps to where voices cannot be have the opportunity to announce an objection or announce a different way of looking at things. And so you're one of the first persons I've actually heard invoke communism instead of fascism. But I would also add it's an identification that both of those, they have an agreement that neither one of them like dissent. So I know you got a radio show and, do a lot of great things in the community. So how are you going to be part of the solution where you live?
The solution is I would using my platform to give people from all different views a voice to be heard, and let their opinion be heard and have a discussion to understand where they're coming from, and to hopefully they'll have the same mindset to sit back and listen and understand where the other side's coming from. And to go back to the old analogy we all heard our whole life: united we stand, divided we fall. Well, right now this country is divided worse than I've probably ever seen it, and that right there is a way for this country to fall big time. Like our enemy, like the people that don't like this country, and like in my opinion, right now we're at a war. We're in a war and we don't even realize it. Most of us, in my opinion, we're in a war right now. We don't even realize it. With certain people that fund certain groups and are using our weakness. They have recognized the weakness that we in America have. As far as how people feel towards each other, and using that weakness against us in a way that we don't even recognize it to fulfill a plan they have. To bring this country down and change the whole thing this country was built on.
I hear you. Hey, bro, I appreciate your time for participating and sharing your thoughts.
I appreciate you having me on and giving the opportunity to be heard, man. I really do.
We'll bring you back on again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, everybody. So I hope you had the opportunity to learn something today. I just want to give a shout out to Paul and Dr. Alina and Aaron and Mark and Brung from Outbox Radio for taking time to share their thoughts and perspectives. These individuals, they, from the state of Arkansas, but then also from the plains of the United States, from the Northeast. I'm very thankful for their perspectives and what they were seeing happening specifically this past week regarding to the election and, larger the last 4 years. How can you be part of the solution? And for many of our guests tonight, they talked about starting at home, of teaching and being an example to their children. The second thing was offering some empathy in terms of praying for somebody, offering an opportunity to understand the pain or hurt that somebody is going through. The third thing that I heard was taking an opportunity to educate and to inform individuals whom they come in contact with or can find an opportunity to contact with. Get informed about the Constitution, understand what it is, understand what is what are our rights and how they are protected by the Constitution of the United States, and what is afforded to us through the Constitution to address our grievances to our government. And then also, as the recognition is, we got to understand that we are divided some form or fashion. Then the question becomes, in that division, are we going to recognize it and then move forward in a positive direction, or will we languish in it and it would be to our detriment. And so those are just some things to consider. I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity to have this first show tonight. Again, visit the website, philipfletcher.org. Find me on YouTube as well. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You got a question about tonight? Hey, you want to reach out to me and say, hey, I want to do this, or you just got a question, I'll take it on air. You can send an email to humanitymatterspodcast@gmail.com. humanitymatterspodcast@gmail.com. And as always, go over to wherever you get your podcast content, subscribe to the Humanity Matters podcast, and also leave me a review. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, check out my nonprofit work. Do a lot of great nonprofit work here in the state of Arkansas. You can check out City of Hope Outreach. That's my nonprofit. Also, Hope Village. That is our small homes project for the homeless and veterans that we are working on and will start building this year. And then our nonprofit development, Replicate. Hey, and as always, remember to be loved, to be kind, and to be generous. If we remember to live in hope, we can do the impossible. Again, thank you to my guests tonight, and we will catch y'all next week.